Hey, Mazel Tov again, Logan. If you'd like, you can take your seats in wherever you'd like. Yeah. It's always a special moment when a teacher has the opportunity to learn from their students. And as we learned from Logan, this week's Parsha contains one of the most famous and infamous stories in the Torah. After completing his audience with God and receiving the tablets of the law, Moses descends Mount Sinai only to find the Israelites are worshiping an idol, the golden calf. It's a puzzling situation that has been the focus of much study over the centuries. How could the Israelites break faith in God and Moses so quickly and so completely? Admittedly, having complete faith and staying on the path to our goals is almost always a challenge. But the Israelites seemingly have every advantage in this endeavor, especially at this point in the narrative. They know definitively that God is on their side and that God is actually present with them. They have seen the 10 plagues delivered in Egypt. They have witnessed God parting the Sea of Reeds, and they crossed the seabed as if it were dry land. They have followed God with their eyes, either by pillar of fire or cloud, sent by God to make sure that they were on the derech, that they were on the correct path. They have just witnessed the power of God at Sinai and have a clear understanding that God has chosen Moses to be their leader. And yet, with Moses upon the mountain for just over a month, they relinquish their trust in God and in Moses. After experiencing more miracles firsthand than any other generation in the Torah, how is it possible that this is their course of action? What we need to remember is that, as obvious as it sounds, the Israelites are people and therefore have the same general strengths and weaknesses of character that all people have. We, who read this Parsha every year, have the benefit of a contemporary perspective, seeing the fullness of the story, beginning, middle, and end. But for the Israelites, all of these events are still unfolding. There is no story, there is no precedent for their situation. The Israelites are in the middle of their journey, and they do not know how the path will end. Yes, they've been informed of their destination and assured that they will reach it, and assured by an all-powerful and redeeming God. But as long as they are wandering in the wilderness, as long as their leader, his health and whereabouts are still unknown, they feel that there is always the chance, no matter how slight, that the future could play out differently, that there is room for doubt. And combined with the fear of the unknown, the Israelites allowed their doubt to rule them, prompting them to fall back on what was familiar, the ways of their Egyptian rulers. Rabbi Caroline Sims teaches that doubt is not necessarily a bad thing. It is actually, in some ways, important for our survival. Doubt is the voice that warns us that something may be too good to be true. Doubt is the hesitation that prompts us to reconsider a risky action and see the possible problems and pitfalls before us. Doubt is the flare that signals to us something we want to do may not be ethically right to do. Rabbi Sims writes, "When doubt is bolstered by fear, when it is given too much power, doubt can paralyze us, or worse, cause us to do harm to ourselves or to others." In his commentary on the Mishnah from chapter 10 of Tractate Sanhedrin, medieval Torah scholar Maimonides formulates his 13 principles of faith. While I hold that the belief that Judaism is essentially void of dogma, these 13 principles summarized what Rambam viewed as the required beliefs of Judaism. Each one begins with the phrase, Ani ma'amin be'emunah shelema. I believe with full faith. The penultimate line refers to the Jewish belief in the coming of Mashiach. In our Siddur, we find references to the end of days. The temple in Jerusalem will be rebuilt. The dead who are righteous will be lifted up again to life. And a figure known as the Mashiach will restore Israel to newfound glories. Ani ma'amin be'emunah shelema beviat HaMashiach. Maimonides writes, I believe in full faith in the coming of the Mashiach. Admittedly, this is a statement about which I express a healthy amount of doubt. That is not to say that I reject the possibility. I'm just not able to say that I believe with perfect faith. Reform Judaism teaches that in partnership with God, it is up to us to make the world into a place of peace and justice, and that we cannot wait, nor do we expect a personal Mashiach. The principles of Reform Judaism, which were edited and restated in 1999, claim that we continue to have faith that in spite of the unspeakable evils committed against our people and the sufferings endured by other peoples, the partnership of God and humanity will ultimately prevail. We bring Torah into the world when we strive to fulfill the highest ethical mandates in our relationships with others and with all of God's creation. Where doubt resides, beauty may also flourish. At the Hirshhorn Museum of Art in Washington, D.C., an artist by the name of Barbara Kruger has an installation entitled Belief plus Doubt equals Sanity. Let this serve as the heart of the matter, for radical belief in any direction can lead to fanaticism. What I admire most about the study of Judaism and the study of theology is that there is never a definitive right answer, that no one person can truly know the nature of God or the driving forces behind our empirical world. All we can do is try our best to interpret our experiences with the divine. And the Israelites misinterpreted their path to God, and they pay a heavy toll for it. The commentaries on this episode berate the Israelites with harsh criticism for their lack of faith. And today I feel much more empathetic towards the Israelites than ever before. Our ancestors were nervous. They were afraid. Even though they were told what was coming, they could not imagine what their futures were to hold. While we attempt to hold on to our sense of control in today's world and understand the complexities of this international crisis, international pandemic, we recognize the fear and anxiety in our community as well. A year in, and we are still feeling it. And this is a perfect example of how doubt can be both helpful and harmful. When people doubt the sound medical advice of doctors and public safety officials, people lose lives. When folks doubt the efficacy of mask wearing or social distancing, they perpetuate the virus. And on the other hand, a great deal of good can come when we are doubtful of unethical or harmful policy. Take, for example, the political cowardice of Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who this week declared the state of Texas 100% open, ending the statewide mask-wearing mandate. The doubters of this irresponsible and quite frankly deadly reversal of public health policy have started a social media campaign asking individuals and businesses to stand by the saying, no mask, no service, no exceptions. The doubt they place in this politician, who just made apparent how truly unfit for office he truly is resoundingly positive. Ultimately, the pandemic reminds us of the interconnectedness of all of humanity, and this is both heartwarming and, yes, a little scary. In preparing for this Shabbat, I was reminded that Shabbat Ki Tisa of 2020 was the first Shabbat that was affected by the pandemic. I remember standing at a distance from Cantor Emeritus Benny Meisner and thinking how strange this all was. And with the heroic efforts of temple staff members and, of course, Deanna Levy, who pulled together our live stream at the very ninth hour, we were able to live stream Holy Blossom's first ever virtual Kabbalat Shabbat using a small webcam on a tripod that had atrocious sound quality. This year has been quite the journey. And we have come a long, long way. And in my Devar Torah that evening, I spoke about uncertainty and offered a few teachings from the wisdom of a Fred Rogers, creator and host of the series Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Fred also happened to be an ordained Presbyterian minister, and many of the lessons and messages that he expressed in his show were inspired by his faith in God. Mr. Rogers teaches us that in times of stress, the best thing that we can do for each other is to listen with our ears and hearts and to be assured that our questions are just as important as our answers. Judaism has always been a religion that puts our primary focus on the questions rather than the answers. We teach our kids to question everything and to become good listeners. The truth is that none of us have the ability to see what is to come. We know where we're heading, but can we make a commitment on the way to listening to the anxieties of our neighbors, of our families, and of ourselves? There should be no questions asked in good faith that must be off limits. We need to give each other space to share emotions. It is normal to feel stressed or doubtful. Everyone does at some point. And recognizing these feelings and knowing that stressful times pass and life will get back to normal can help us all build resilience. This challenging year can also lead us to self-doubt, to fear of what we ourselves might be becoming. And with that in mind, I want to conclude this Shabbat by sharing with you an incredible piece of creative writing by John Rodell entitled Become. It speaks to the importance of faith in God and in ourselves, and this necessity to let go of unabated fear. The author of this writing fashions a dialogue with the Creator that resonates beautifully. Hi, God. Hello. I'm falling apart. Can you put me back together? I would rather not. Why? Because you are not a puzzle. Well, what about all of the pieces of my life that are falling down onto the ground? Let them stay there for a while. They fell off for a reason. Take some time and decide if you need any of those pieces back. You don't understand, God. I'm breaking down. No, you don't understand. You are breaking through. What you are feeling are growing pains. You are shedding the things in your life that are holding you back. You aren't falling apart. You're falling into place. Relax. Take some deep breaths and allow those things you don't need anymore to fall off of you. Quit holding on to the pieces that don't fit you anymore. Let them fall off. Let them go. And once I start doing that, what will be left of me? Only the very best pieces of you. But I'm scared of changing. I keep telling you, you aren't changing. You are becoming. But becoming who? You are becoming who I created you to be. A person of light and love, of charity and hope, of courage, joy, grace, and compassion. I made you for more than the shallow pieces you have decided to adorn yourself with, that you cling to with such greed and fear. Let those things fall off of you. Don't change. Become. Become who I made you to be. I'm going to keep telling you until you remember. There goes another piece again. Yes, let it be. So God, I'm not broken. Of course not. But you are breaking like the dawn. It is a new day. Become. It is human to fear the unknown and to seek the security of what is familiar. It is often easier to fall back on old habits than to stay the course of a new path. Any new or untested path will naturally prompt us to doubt. The Israelites allowed their doubt and their fear to stop them in the wilderness. And without Moses' intervention, we might be there still. Viewing this narrative of the golden calf, and through this lens and with our evolving understanding of the role of doubt in our lives, with its advantages and drawbacks, let us be the ones to rise above fear. Ken Yehi Ratzon. Shabbat Shalom.